Everybody, welcome back. This is intended to be a fairly short video, but I wanted to show you something that is quite useful for me, and hopefully it's useful for you as well. I don't know about you, but I tend to do a lot of work in the terminal or the command line environment. Basically, I'll write, say, a Python script or C++ application or something like that, and I just run it in the terminal. And some of these scripts take quite a while to execute. Now, if you're working in a cloud environment, you might find yourself doing something similar. For instance, you might write, a Python or a Perl or a Bash script or something that takes a while to, say, parse through logged data, or maybe read through a text file and yank out some particular information that you need. And these are not jobs where they're going to take a massive amount of time. You might want to look at other technologies for that. For instance, in Google Cloud, there's say cloud, like there's the job scheduler, there's Cloud Spanner, there's lots of different things out there for bigger jobs that if you have something kind of quick and dirty that you need to run, you can actually use the Cloud Shell to go ahead and basically handle some of these jobs. Now, what I'm pulling up here is a window. Sorry for the waffling here. One of the things to show you here is that you can actually use the Cloud Shell for these long-running applications. Again, the Cloud Shell is basically a Linux environment, and of interest for those of you in the space, it's running a Tmux session by default. If you don't know what Tmux is, it's basically a sub-process that will run your shell separately from kind of the normal interactive session. Another technology is called Screen, which is another one for Linux where basically you split off a subshell. Why is that important? Basically, it's useful to know which one your shell is using, but these sessions are recoverable. For instance, I can run a program, disconnect myself, and go and do something else, and then come back later, reattach that session, and it's done. Those of you who have ever used SSH to remotely log into a server, started running a program, and then say you needed to do something else, you can't do anything. It's stuck running this particular script. Tmux and Screen solve that by allowing you to basically minimize what you're doing, work, and then come back to it later on. All this basically introduction here is how do we run a program for a long amount of time. I've got this page up here for a particular reason because there are usage limits for Cloud Shell. Now, you will run through a couple of Cloud Shell demos. You'll be using it throughout the semester. You'll get comfortable with it. But my understanding, at least currently, is that you can run a script for an hour before it gets killed. So Cloud Shell is intended for interactive usage, meaning that you're doing stuff with it. You're not just kicking off long-running jobs and letting it chunk along. Um, Not intended for that. I'm pretty sure your job would be killed by the scheduler at Google if you let it go. But if you have something quick that needs to be run, you can pop open your Cloud Shell. And again, it's this little button here. Here's our Cloud Shell. And to give you an example of what I'm talking about, let's say I want to run a script that does something for a long amount of time, but under an hour. So I created this long-running script here, which does the very exciting task of, let's change the colors here, iterating a variable. Good computer sciencey task. Consider this to be like chunking through a file or, again, something that takes a little while to get through. All right, but here we're just updating I. Nothing too exciting. Again, this is a Python script. So if I were to go ahead and run this, I just see the number getting printed out, and it takes a little while. What I'm kind of talking about with respect to coming back and working on this later is I can just go ahead and close my browser window here. All right, I'm gonna walk away, I'm gonna do my work, then come back, oops, I closed my session. Okay, well I can just go back to Google Cloud Console here, and I can pop open my shell, and lo and behold, it's still running. This is happening through the magic of Tmux, which is a program, Tmux. This is what it would kind of look like in your shell if you were using it at home. Basically, they give you one of these by default, and it remembers that session. every time I click the little new tab icon here, I get a new Tmux session. If I were to go ahead and say Tmux ls, which basically would list out all the active sessions, I see there's two windows here. This being one of them, and this other one being the other one. Again, once I close this, I can open as many as I want. Now, there are some specifics of how Google is using Tmux. You wouldn't use your normal Tmux commands like you would in your own terminal. You can split it like I just did here, and I can keep splitting as I want. Again, I'm using special Tmux related commands, but kind of the point is that I've got my own session here. Now, this is still going. Again, I could cancel it. I could come back later, but I've got a long running job in my shell. Again, nothing too crazy here, but I just want you to know that this is available to you. Again, check this limitations page if you're concerned about using it. You have quotas that you can follow. So there is a um, session information usage quota here. I've got 60 hours of usage limits for the month, basically. So this is going to reset on the 21st, which is actually tomorrow, which is kind of nice. Oh, sorry, these are weekly, not monthly. I had monthly in my head. But I could use this for some kind of batch processing or some kind of data parsing, something like that. Anyway, it's out there for you if you need to use it. Feel free to go wild on it and yeah, enjoy your scripting. Bye, everybody.